for out.
Okay, roll call. So Catherine will be a little bit late. Tim?
Here.
Heidi? Here. Alicia? Here. Joseph?
Here.
And David is not here today. He's on a school trip, a college trip. All right, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
No adjustments this evening.
I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Winthrop School Board meeting of November 1st, 2023, and the special board meeting of November 8th, 2023, as written or with corrections.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Thank you. It is time for public comment. Are there any that
There's no, I would like to, there is none on here, but I know that Mrs. Emery has some public comments that she is intending to make.
Okay.
Reserve some time for her when she shows up.
Moving on to the superintendent's report. Oh, just a moment, there is one. Yes, use the microphone, please.
As a member of the public, I am wanting to inquire about the status of the high school bathroom doors. And if anything has been done about that, that concerned me in my former role as a teacher, and it concerns me as a resident, or a parent of a student in high school. It would certainly concern me. Do we know what's going on with that?
So, the public comment is not a time for us to answer questions, so we will take your question now and we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, public comment. Do you have something that you wanted to share? Oh.
Yes. Sorry. Hello. I have I received a letter this last days before, and I did want to share it with our board. And it was a letter from a member of the community who had some concerns about the post or the letter to the editor in the advertisement. And so I thought it would be just important for people to know here that that was raised, and I wanted to share with you guys that the letter was about so it was some concerns about endorsing a candidate, and that's an appropriate position for our superintendent to take, and some concerns about use of taxpayer resources and how that would work out. I am comfortable with the post that was made about regarding free speech and the First Amendment, and any concerns I would have had about taxpayer resources. I'm okay with it, but I thought I should share with you that this was the concern. I spoke to Jim about it. Jim, do you want to say anything? Okay. And I just thought it would be important to communicate. Yeah, I received a copy of that as well.
Will there be a discussion, or is it just you as is?
We don't discuss during public comments. It's something that I haven't seen this happen before. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, I sent my report with the packet. I'm not going to review what's in there because I'm not sure I can get through it. So the only other thing I want to sort of point out is two things. We did finally get our core values put up in here. And so I'll point that out to you. Thank John Bear for putting those up. And the other thing I want to mention from my report is that we have submitted a waiver for the 2 days that we lost back to the most of the shootings, and 1 day that the grade school was not in session from the teacher we passed. So we don't have any appointments or any resignations, any of those types of things. So unless you have any questions, that's all I have.
Are there any questions or comments for Jim? Okay. So, I don't have a lot to say. We did have, part of what I'm going to say is board chair, part of what I'm going to say is negotiations. So I'm just going to put it all in together here. We did have our first meeting for negotiations today, and we built out our schedule for 8 meetings, and they are going to go beyond December 31st. It would be good to have another member of the board on the committee with me between now and December 31st for some continuity for the end of the year. So I do need one of you to volunteer to do that. The meetings are, with the exception of 1 day, the meetings are on Thursdays, starting at 4:30 in the afternoon. And I can share that meeting schedule with you if you're thinking about it, or if you just want to know what it is. We definitely share that with you. But we're at a point now where we're going to need somebody to step up and be on the committee. It's not a good idea for Jim to be the only person on the committee for those who there should at least be 2, because I'm not carrying over in January, but it's still for us. We are looking into the possibility, the legality of me staying on after December 31st, just for this committee, to help out with that. I don't know yet if that will be allowed to happen or not. Jim's very good at negotiations, and I will happily answer any questions that you may have, whether I want to or not. So we'll have an answer to that probably well before our next meeting.
So it's actually 2 questions within there. One, I need to find out if legally a non-member of the board can sit in. My guess is it's probably permissible because you can bring in lawyers and other people. So that's one question. I know the second question is going to be whether you collectively that will add on to that mix as well, or after we can probably continue in that role.
That's not something that you need to decide today. That's something that you can decide anytime between now and December 31st. And then either I will continue to come to the meetings or I won't, and that's, that is what that is. That's not a big deal. And again, that's just for the negotiations portion after December 31st. Will and I were able to make it to the funeral for the young family on Friday. It was very well attended. It was great to see them
Yes, we met and we did payroll 7, 8, 9, 10. We did do warrants 5A, 5B, 6A, 6B, 6C, 7A, 7B, 8A, 8B.
Are you fully caught up, or is that just what you're able to get done in that
We're
time?
100% covered.
Awesome, nice job. Policy, do you have any updates for us today?
We do not have any updates.
When is your next meeting?
Our next meeting is at 4:30 before our next policy, our next board meeting, which is December 6th. Sorry.
All right, 4:30, December 6th, okay, thank you. Negotiations, so we set ground rules today, we set our meeting schedule, and I think we talked about everything else already. There are 4 members of the teachers union, and then currently Jim. So that's it for that. The administrator reports are attached, so we'll go through them one at a time. If anybody has any comments, questions, looks like there's a representative from almost everybody here in one fashion or another. So we'll start with the grade school. Jolene is here. She's a little incognito right now. And Deb is on the Zoom. Thank you. Any questions or comments for Deb or Jolene? How are your staff doing?
We'll hold the reception here Saturday for Melanie, and I've been in touch with her husband and friends of her family, trying to get things solidified and figured out. We started setting up today.
Do you need any of us?
I think we're going to be okay. I mean, I know we have your support, so that's huge. When I called Superintendent Hodgson to see if it would be a possibility to have her reception here, which is really what her family wanted. So just being able to do that for them this week.
Yeah, that is huge. Okay, thank you. I think that's really it for me, other than seeing what we did for the bus drivers. It was pretty awesome. I think they're the unsung heroes a lot of times. It's Joe is here for the middle school. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the middle school report?
I thought the student-led conferences this year was a good idea. From what I saw, it went well.
Yeah, we had a higher rate of participation this year than we had in the past. It's the first time we've done them, so they're not exactly where they're always going to end up, but we received some pretty strong and supportive feedback. And also kind of a full year to tweak them just a little bit.
So I'm just going to take a quick step back and just remind folks, and I'm sorry for Jolene and Joe, if you're speaking, please go to the podium and use the microphone so that the recording will pick you up.
Okay.
We can hear you, but the recording won't be able to hear you. Okay, so how did the new schedule go this week so far?
The schedule rollout, we put in a lot of thought and a lot of changes. Anytime you introduce a new schedule, there's going to be some sort of anxiety around it with kids. We usually do it at the beginning of the year, so they have like the eagerness of a new school year and the positivity. And we just did it again in November, so we have short days and cold weather. The first day there was a little bit of confusion, but since then we were able to reduce something like 85% of our classes in size, which was a really big deal for what we needed to do. We were able to implement some co-teaching. We had some teachers their schedules to some things that they haven't traditionally done before, because they knew that it was best for students. We've had some good starts. We're only 3 days into it, so I can't give you like oh, it's going great. It was rough the first day. It was better yesterday, and I hesitate to say good today. Shoot for good tomorrow. So.
I'll take it. Thank you. All right, and Jay is here. All right, does anybody have any questions or comments for Jay about the high school report? Jay, do you want to take an opportunity to address Mark's question?
I will, thank you. So I reported to Superintendent Hodgkin a few weeks ago, probably a month ago. So the bathroom doors were open, they remained open. And here's why. I assumed it was the cleaning crew that was opening the bathrooms in the evening and leaving the bathroom doors open. So for about 2 weeks, when I would get to school in the morning, either George or myself would close the bathroom doors. We'd kick the car up and we'd close the doors. And without fail during the day, whether it be before 9 or usually around 9:30, sometimes earlier, the bathroom doors would be open again. So I talked to some students, talked to some staff to try to figure out why. And it was the kids that were opening the bathrooms themselves. And in a couple of instances I witnessed kids opening the bathroom doors themselves. And the prevailing reason was that the kids want the bathroom doors open. They feel safer with the bathroom doors open to use the facilities. And those kiddos that, for one reason or another, want more privacy, we do have the single-use bathroom upstairs. I had a plan, if we need it, for the second single-use bathroom upstairs, which is a staff bathroom. But we haven't had to put that online as a student bathroom as of yet. And things seem to be going pretty smoothly. So after a couple of weeks, I gave up closing the bathroom doors because they would always open on their own again.
And Jay, we had a discussion where somebody brought up the fact that people felt like people were able to look into the stalls on them, and you resolved that issue too, right?
I didn't have to resolve anything. I think George and I investigated that, and I invited Superintendent Hodgkin up to investigate it too, and he can report what he found as well as I can. It's impossible to see in that bathroom, in that stall. And if I could do a little diagram, the ladies' bathroom by the main office, the last stall against the wall, the back wall, is the handicap stall, which takes up the entire length of the bathrooms beyond the sinks. So the door is on the right-hand side of the wall, the stall door. And the toilet is over here. And the crack or the space that was mentioned, that was brought to our attention, was actually the door where it opens and shuts. So not only can't you see it unless you're in the bathroom, if you could see it, the toilet's on the other side. So that was what we discovered. I don't know if I captured that correctly, Superintendent Hodgkin.
And I saw the same thing. I don't know.
And there was no concern about any of the other stalls people being able to?
No, because the door, where the door is, when you can see that the door opens, you can see the mirrors and the sinks, but you can't see that way because there's a wall there that's tiled, and then behind that wall are all the stalls with the individual doors that swing the other way.
Without belaboring this, I don't think that's fully addressing the issue. The issue was not only that people can see in or outside, it's that when there are girls or boys in the bathroom at the mirrors, they are seeing
what you're saying is that there are people that are looking at the mirrors and seeing in the stalls?
I know that, like, where I work, we've got these, like, brush type things that cover up those gaps. They move when the door opens, but otherwise they cover the gaps so you can't see it. I don't know if that might be a good resolution for something like that.
I guess I would suggest that if anybody has, I hear that, I've looked at that, I looked at not just the handicap stall, all of them. I don't see that's an issue. And I'm not hearing the students who are saying that's an issue either. But I would invite anybody to come up and take a look at the bathrooms. That's what I did. Some of the other people looked at it as well. So, yeah, help me understand what the issues are. I don't see how anybody can see anything. And first of all, it's not related to the door on the outside being open. That's a totally different issue. And then I will go back and relook at it, but I don't see that being an issue that we can put things of the stuff up there. It's not going to be.
I know some of the feedback that I have heard was like, even when the girls retrieve a sanitary item from, that's over by the sink area, boys walking by would see that, and then the girls were getting ridiculed and picked on and being called. So, but I would love to go up to the school, make an appointment with you and show you guys.
Come on up, we'll look at it together.
So I'll send you an email tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Would love to have any of you come up and point out, or take a look at it with me, point out whatever we can address, we'll address.
Thank you, Jim.
I guess that I really respect that perspective. Part of that feels I'm not trying to be on the spot or if David was here, but maybe it's, but we're not hearing that from I was asking kids too, and I'm not getting any of that. We had sort of said, we'll close the doors, but they're the ones that are opening the doors. So I don't know how to address that if the student body in general doesn't want the doors closed.
I know some of the stuff that I received, this is so loud. That's one of the reasons why some of the kids felt afraid to shut the doors is because, from my understanding, they're afraid that using perfume or hairspray or any type of aerosol product is going to set off those the sensors, which they will do that, and they're afraid that they're going to get in trouble and reprimanded for vaping when that's not the case, and they're afraid they're not going to be believed or trusted. So that, I know, is a big reason why some kids are afraid to shut the doors, is for that situation. But, I mean, I'd love to go into more in detail with some of the stuff, because for a female to bring up that issue about privacy in the bathroom, especially, like, say, a child that's come from any type of victimization, it's hard to share that stuff because of their own self things, especially with a male. So, I mean, I would love, and not, I mean, some of those situations are outsized, but, I mean, I would love to sit down, you know, and share what has been shared with me and find ways to make it comfortable for all students. I know some kids are afraid to speak up because they're afraid, you know, like they're going to be treated different or any type of stuff or stuff like that. Because it's hard for kids to speak up. It's hard for kids to ask for help. I know it's hard for us adults to ask for help. I know I have that issue. That's why sometimes kids come to like other people who understand so that it could be shared and come to a resolution. So, but I would love to set up a time and maybe we can go through that and I can share some more detailed stuff.
And I understand, I respect all that. I mean, we've had some of these conversations on the phone. I mean, I also have Alexis Schoolius, Emily Fortin, and Stacy Beveridge who were there who report things to me that others may not want to. And that's fine because, not because I'm the principal, but because I'm a guy, right? And I totally get that. The other thing too is I'm not sure where the vaping thing has come from. I was very clear with staff and students last year and this year that, Paul, just as of recently, the vape detectors have been installed, like very, very recently, that the only detectors that were in the building were on the second floor, in the bathroom on the second floor. And they do detect those types of things, like perfumes and incense and stuff, but it is at a very different level and a very different rate. And from my experience, I've never used the Verkada before, just with the trial that we had last spring. You get those reports, and I'd say probably 9 times out of 10 it identifies it as a vape or marijuana or tobacco or something else, because the levels are very different. That's how sensitive they are. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you, Jake. To be honest, I'm not sure. As soon as you mentioned the fact that hairspray may give a false positive for a vape, the first thing that came into my mind is I'm going to go get a can of hairspray and test it myself. So, trial and error. So it's quite possible that other things make false positives. I'm going to talk to my Verkada representative and the installation people as well. Okay? So try to get an answer for you.
Yeah, just my years of building facilities, from my background, I work with a lot of different types of equipment and stuff like that. When I set up a time to come up, I can bring some different products that I know teenagers have.
Yes, I would welcome that opportunity.
That way maybe we could just do a test run of.
Absolutely. I'm all in favor of testing. I'm a musician, so we call that rehearsal. Yeah. So that's...
Yeah, I've been looking at some of the statistics with different vape systems
Yep.
when the first situation come out.
Right.
And I know just like police radar detectors,
Right.
they're not accurate, but they're pretty good,
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say, I'm new to this, so I would welcome that opportunity as a learning opportunity. Thank you.
And if I may, my last comment to the board is that I have got one student vaping so far this year. And my philosophy with that, whether it be vaping or anything else, is not about crime and punishment. It's about help and it's about cessation. And that's a message that I've tried to tell staff and students and be loud and clear about. So with that particular individual, we do have some stuff in place to help that person stop and quit because they want to quit, but they can't. So good example of a positive intervention for a student.
Joseph, did you want to weigh in at all about what's going on in the bathrooms, or do you have the same thoughts?
I can relate a little bit. I know me personally, I would prefer that doors to be closed. I don't know if that's a popular opinion. I'm actually thinking of running a poll at the school, if that would be possible. But I don't think it's a huge issue that my personal preference would be to have it closed. I don't really know much about the detector machine.
Thanks, Joseph, I appreciate it. So if you will work with Mr. Dufour on figuring out what that poll will look like in the delivery system, that'd be great. And then we can bring those results back. Thank you. How are your students doing after the Lewiston shooting and the loss of the parent for your kiddo?
They're doing okay. I preached from the beginning that normalcy and routine is probably the best medicine. The staff has been really good dealing with it on their own. I've given them time. We've, not just me, but we've given them support. We've allowed staff to tag out, and we've covered classes to allow staff the time. Emily Ford has been amazing. I have to say that publicly with the support she's brought in, not for just the staff, but for students. Over the weekend when those things happened, I probably worked a lot, and we talked on the phone a lot to try to put some things in place. And not just Emily, but Stacy and all the counselors as well coming together. And the therapy dogs still coming in sporadically, but they still are. Have been an absolute home run for staff and students. I've gone in to pet the therapy dogs. So with all those things, and, you know, giving staff permission that it's okay to take some time, to not have to get A to Z in their curriculum, to put stuff on the second quarter and not worry about, you know, giving them that, you know, that undue burden, that permission to do that. I think they're doing okay. But what I see the most is that staff are tired and then they really need that Thanksgiving break to kind of take some personal time and regroup. But it's been a long few weeks.
Thank you. I want to backtrack to the middle school really quickly, if we can, about the boys to men. The report said that it will be used for the 8th grade boys. Is there a reason that it's not going down to 7th and 6th?
So, in partnering with this community, or this group, we looked at the needs of our kids and the developmental age of them, and 8th grade was most appropriate. So instead of doing 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, what we've done is we've made a commitment to them for the 8th grade for the next 3 years. So it would be this year, and then the 7th graders this year, we did 8th graders next year, and the 6th graders this year, we did 2 years. So it is our plan for everybody in the middle school to kind of go through that program, but sort of 1 year at a time, and then also seeing how that goes and seeing if there's room for expansion somewhere else. It's a really worthwhile program.
Thank you. Okay, Sue is here for the special ed report. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns to bring up for Sue Fawcett? All right, and Megan is on the Zoom for the Director of Teaching and Learning report. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns for Megan? I just have one question for you, Megan. In your report on the strategic plan update, I haven't had a chance to look at the document that's in here, but will we be getting information about what the feedback was that you did receive?
So I wasn't going to publish that necessarily. I can give you folks a rundown right now if you're interested, or I could write it in a memo to the board. What would be your preference?
I think
I can summarize it right now. I think it'll be 5 minutes, and if you'd like further clarification, I can draft something that has that.
sounds good.
Yep. So we had 4 public comments. Really, there were 3. One of them was just kind of what I would say probably something spanning a tie. So 2 of them were submitted through the form online. One was an email directly to myself. The 2 that were submitted online, one of them talked a little bit about the dropout rate in the high school, which we kind of look at the opposite of that cut rate, the graduation rate, and some concerns around that, as well as discipline referrals, and specifically noting out-of-school suspensions, saying that that was all that we were assigning. And I do think there's maybe some clarification that needs to be around that, because we actually have not only assigned out-of-school suspensions. The year 2020, 2021 was what was cited in that comment, and that was the year coming back from COVID. So in-school suspensions actually were not something that we were comfortable, we can't leave a student unattended and you would be within close proximity. That year we did have 1 in-school suspension anyways out of 20. From 21 to 22, just so the board's aware, we did have 5 in-school suspensions. There were 26 suspensions total that year. And last year, it's not published yet on the ESSA dashboard, but we did have 1 in-school suspension, and I think there were 15 out-of-school suspensions. So traditionally, that is a concern that was brought up through this public comment. We did talk a little bit about it at our 18. And I think I've shared with the board already that we're really working on having a consistent way of reporting discipline through our school, which then stands with synergy to create that state level support, or not support, report that folks are accessing. So we did talk about the suspensions at the 18 level. We do in the strategic plan have a goal. I know you folks have that draft with you. So if you look at under curriculum instruction assessment, and you don't have to turn there right now, but on page 7, we talk a little bit about academic structures, and we mentioned the graduation rate, both with thinking of expanding our summer school offerings to be something that is included in the regular budget so that we can start making sure that our graduation rates are healthy, as well as clarifying multiple pathways to graduation as a goal that we're looking at, making stronger and making sure that those pathways are available to all students. So through those two things, we're offering additional support in hopes that that will help increase our graduation rate. But really, our graduation rate has been over 80%. We were at 81.8 in 21-22. And then the other data is also still in that report as far as the graduation rate. So I think some of this data was pulled from state level data because it did talk about students who are English language learners, and that's not something that we publicly report on because we have a population less than 5 students or 5 students. So traditionally, that's not reported out. The second comment on that sheet was more specific to a student incident, and it did not provide any feedback or guidance towards the strategic plan. However, that feedback was taken to the 18. We did discuss it, and we feel that looking at our discipline, we do have a goal around decreased discipline referrals. And bringing in and exploring restorative practices. So we got that, making sure that something around looking at discipline was in the plan and it had already actually been in there. So it wasn't an addition that we made. The final, sorry, you can go for it if you want to, Kelly.
No, I was just saying, okay, thank you.
Yep, there's one more. The email was feedback on and kind of a thumbs up that we prioritize looking at our comprehensive health and safety and emergency management plan, and that's something that you folks will be seeing from the 18 and from our district level teams to review in December as well. So some kudos around that and making sure that we look at our security audit, which is also part of the plan already. So not a lot of feedback, but some of it brought some good conversation in our 18 last week and minimal edits, were made. So you folks have the draft that you will be my intention, and I think Mr. Hodgkin's intention is that we will be voting on that strategic plan in December. So you have the draft that will be, at this point, considered our final revision.
Thank you very much, Megan. Any questions or comments? Yeah.
I have a question for you. Do we know how many students didn't transfer from 8th grade to 9th grade for this school year, and how many kids this school year have been transferred out of our district since the beginning of school?
That is not that I have right now specifically, but that's something that I could look into. And Jim, I'm sorry to cut you off. I kind of felt that might have been a piece of data that I could have included here, but I have not looked into that. I'd be happy to look further and report back.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so the next is co-curricular and extracurricular activities, and Joel is not on the Zoom or here, but if anybody has any questions, I'm sure Jim can get them to them. I think the only question that I had was related to the library and the grade school not having heat this morning, and how is that being resolved?
I wasn't aware that the library didn't have heat this morning. I know the gym area and the music room at the middle school have not had heat for at least a couple weeks. I know I spoke directly with the owner of the company yesterday, and the project manager as well yesterday. I know they are doing a little best to get people up here. Port City was here at the middle school today, but like I said, I don't know where it wasn't heat. It's been reported to me at the grade school today, but I know there is an issue with grade school with where it's bubbling up with not unusual. We put new heating systems in, but they don't necessarily disperse heat as evenly as we hope they will. But we have a date for a company to come up and address that issue at the middle school next week. And then it's called balancing, is what I was told. Balancing the heat. It does make a lot of sense to me. I was a little frustrated with I'm not addressing the question, but the issue is with the new boilers, I believe there were 9 vents or fans or whatever the word is at the middle school. The new system only calls for 5, which sounds really great, except that I was wondering, the question is, why did we have heat before we had new boilers, and why don't we have heat now? And that was basically what I was told, is the new, whatever it is that pushes them through, it's not balanced yet. So that's happening. I would assume that it's the same issue that we have to read school in terms of heating up.
Do we have a date set for the grade school we have to balance it?
I wasn't aware that they had issues.
June, I think that's the before.
This is Ariana. At the grade school, as of yesterday, they found that there was some little hose piece that was off the boiler. And so it was causing the dysregulation in the heat. But they did fix that yesterday. And then today, they were working on trying to make sure, as Jim was saying, something about balancing it out. And it wasn't, but just a few hours into school, we had heat in places where we didn't have heat initially. But we were like, I don't even know how warm, 80-something degrees in the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade wing because of that hose having blown off. So they did figure that out and take care of that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Since we're on the topic, I'll just add to it. Hanging out with the breakfast cart in the morning, I've only overheard, no one's come to me, but I just overhear the kitchen staff saying that it's colder in the cafeteria. But one concern was that there isn't any hot water in the sink.
Is this in
The grade school.
In the kitchen, there's no hot water?
That's what they were saying. I only overheard.
Yeah, that we have the hot water back now.
Okay, good. That was this week.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Next report is technology, and Paul is here if anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns. And I have one thing for you, sir. In the section for camera and vape sensor installation, you mentioned that an issue that you've been experiencing is that some of the existing devices were getting unplugged at the network switches. Where are those located and who has access to them?
So that's part of the installation crew that they have access. And of course, we talked about their installation schedule was the so-called second shift, 2 to 10, so that they would come in for the installation while after the end of the instructional day for both the high school and middle school. So they do have access to that. We have addressed it, and so through the proper channels, and so we have corrected it. It was just an initial thing that was happening the first couple of days, and then it stopped. The only other thing I wanted to give an update in my report, I said it was optimistic that it would be done. They are in the middle school, and now we're looking at Friday for them to finish. And then on Monday we'll have our meeting with Laurie and Joe, if he can be there, to show the camera system and where they're pointed and all that. We did that earlier today with Jay via Zoom. So.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have anything to call before 6 down? Okay, thank you. All right, the next is nutrition, and Sam is on the Zoom with us. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns for Sam? I just have one thing. Sam, thank you for your help with the Joel. It was nice to meet you, it was nice to have you there, I appreciate it.
You're welcome, it was nice to meet you too.
And I hear nothing but good things about the food from my sons. Transportation, Josh is not here or on the Zoom, but if you have any questions for him, I'm sure we can get them to him. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Josh? Okay. Next, that's it for the administrator reports. Okay. Whew. My goodness. The MSMA conference discussion between Alicia and Jim talking to us about what you learned and what you'd like to share with us, please.
Okay, so yes, I got to attend the Maine School Board Association conference. It was a 2-day event at the Civic Center. I was really looking forward to it. Unfortunately, it did have kind of damper mood because of all the events that were happening, which was a little difficult. There were a lot of offerings. I attended 8 sessions. Several of the ones that I had interest in were canceled just because people couldn't come in and whatnot. But the ones that I did attend, Career Ready Trump's College Ready, which was a very interesting session focusing on AI in the classroom and for teachers and putting together lesson plans. I attended one also called Maine Youth Presents Substance Abuse Education. I kind of found, as I was reviewing and looking over, that there's a little something for everyone here. So I had thought about Jay up at the high school and having these students come in to the high school because they were fantastic, and just the ability of students to connect to younger folks. These 2 people who were presenting this discussion were both recovering addicts, and it was pretty powerful. The third clinic I attended was called What's With All Investigations, kind of talking about things happening in the media and the other school boards. We haven't really seen that so much, but it was interesting to hear about. Another one that I had attended was What Does It Take to Lead Outdoor Learning at the District Level? And I actually thought about special education here because they really talked a lot about how outdoor learning helps ease anxiety of kiddos, and it helps with focus and concentration, and it kind of gives them a hands-on ability to learn, which is different from sitting in a chair in a classroom. Food Corps came in and talked about what they do, and there's a lot of gardening that takes place, and really getting the kids active and using their hands. Another one I attended was Meet the Commissioner, so I met Captain Rankin and was able to hear a Q&A from her team, which was really cool. And then I had, on Friday, connecting the dots between trauma, SEL, and student success. I also thought a lot about special ed here. Let's see, the value of adult education, which was really cool. I thought about Joel a lot because they talked about having our community members come into the schools, so, for example, doing an indoor walking program during winter time. And how do you get our community members invested in wanting to, approve our budget when it comes to election? And it's really getting them into the building and seeing maybe what the needs are and whatnot, and getting them more involved and invested. Let's see, what else? I also thought about Jolene and the line square dancing that you guys do at the grade school, because they suggested that. I was like, oh, we already do that, so that's great. They also talk about using parent-teacher conferences as a way for parents to be able to see what the buildings are like, what the needs might be, and kind of empowering community members to want to meet the needs of our schools. They also talked about offering a bus driver training waiver fee for people who agreed to work for their district. We talked about having an informational session for our ed tech positions, getting people from our community involved if we have vacancies, and offering like a forum on that informational session. And the last one was getting help building experiential learning into your schools. And this was, let's see, talk about the value of nature and stress relief, becoming influence. Yeah, that's basically my summary. I had a really nice time meeting people, networking with people. It was just hard with everything that had been going on with the shooting and a lot of people missing, and just it was very heavy, but also good to be with a bunch of people who care a lot about our education systems in Maine, and so it was good. It was good to support each other. Thanks, Alicia.
My time obviously was cut pretty short. I obviously didn't go at all on Thursday, but I do want to quickly talk about Wednesday with the Maine School Superintendents meeting, which meets the day before the MSMA two-day conference. And there'll be more information coming. We should attend one of the sessions. Bill Daggett, so he did. Bill Daggett is a national, an unbelievably great speaker. And I was very impressed with what, we were there all day Wednesday, obviously. So we talk about AI and how not to be afraid of AI and how to use it and figure it out and use it to our advantage. It was very encouraging. I think it was very, I sort of felt that way anyway. I was like ready for the challenge. I know my colleagues in the room were not feeling that way, and I think they love feeling much more uplifted by that. As I said, I didn't attend at all on Thursday. I attempted to go Friday. I was there first thing in the morning. I was working first thing, but we had a superintendent's meeting Friday morning, and then I did that from there, and then I went to a session in film, and I really got to it. Basically, it was about school board roles and responsibilities, which seemed very ironic to me that they would be in there. Trevor Woodson presented it. The name sounds familiar because they are attorneys, and most of the attorneys, most of the schools in the state needs attorney. And it was very refreshing for me with some of the struggles I think we're dealing with here in Winthrop with roles and responsibilities and that type of stuff. It was very affirming, and it was really awesome to hear other school board members talk about how they deal with things on the board, what have been the issues. It sounds very familiar, but I think we're really heading in a really good direction as a board, and I felt really good about that coming out of the meeting. So it was very encouraging for me. And then sadly after that, I did a meeting with the press, TV stations, whatever, the rest of that day, which is not what I really want to do, but needed to be done.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Jim or Alicia about the conference? Yeah.
Can I just add to that? Okay.
Is this on? Okay. So I also attended the MSMA conference. This is my 4th year as a presenter. And it was the first time that it was in person in 4 years, so that was really exciting. But just to piggyback off what Jim said, Bill was the keynote presenter for Thursday morning, and one of the statistics that he shared I found pretty amazing. Average Americans have spent 60 minutes on TikTok. Now, I have not spent probably a minute on TikTok. But if you're a teenager, that time is 1 hour and 30 minutes. That's what the average is for teens. And so his message was really around, we need to embrace what's happening in the world around us. AI is here, and we need to understand what it is and not be afraid of it. And it was really moving, except for the moment when he said, oh, and it can write your IEPs for you. And every special ed director in the room all kind of made eye contact with one another. But we've been talking a lot about that at the local level. Our districts, our regional groups have talked about it. And I just recently returned from National CASE Conference, which is the Council for Administrators of Special Education, and they were talking about it there. And so there's some movement happening. While I was there, I was also able to attend a Drummond Wixom session on the legal year in review, which was pretty fascinating. And I just wanted to just give you an update as far as what they're thinking their major concerns are going to be coming up. And this is around special education rights because of the raising of the eligibility to age 22, the obligation to provide services, the use of restraint and seclusion because the law has changed, and then attendance being reviewed by a monthly by teams so that we can look at chronic absenteeism. I am above average apparently when it comes to I don't post anything, but I watch a few really interesting teachers, and a lot of them are high school teachers, and talking about how scared they were of AI until they finally realized probably the best thing we can do is force our students to actually write a paper using AI and then go through and, oh, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Oh, that's not really right. And then really take a look at how AI is not super as strong or as great as it's purported all the time, and how you have to be really careful and use your own brain instead of just say, AI, write this for me, here you go. And so I think, yeah, maybe you could use it for IEPs as long as you're super careful about making sure that you're going through and saying, all right, that doesn't make sense, it's against the law, or it's not something that student will need. But you know, if we can find a way to make something a little bit easier, it's an interesting place to be. All right, yeah.
So actually I have taken some notes on this because Bill Daggett's session was very interesting. It was interesting to hear him say, because we were raised in this 20th century with content being the big thing, and it's really a shift to skills. And he said, the central skill in the age of AI is the ability to write sophisticated prompts. And he gave an example of what that looks like. He told the AI, I think it was ChatGPT, to write a paragraph on football. And it came back and it was about, what was it, soccer. Yes, and it came back and it was about football. And, you know, because we in America don't call it that. And so just being able to impute exactly what you want it to say or do. It's just really interesting. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. I keep telling Will, when I learned how to use the internet and we searched cat, it brought up the Caterpillar, you know, big dick company, not cat videos or inappropriate things. Times have changed so much, and so staying up with it is so important. All right, moving on. Fiscal year 24 budget discussion, Jim.
I actually I passed that out to you, reviewed with the administrative team last week, or whatever it was, it's in your packet. It's kind of just same basic outline that you've received in the past, so I don't know why I did a budget discussion, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about budget time.
I don't know if either of you have had a chance to really look at it yet, or Monica, you've had a chance to really look at it yet either. It was online. So if you do have questions, let Jim know. It's aggressive. It's going to take up the majority of your time. So make sure that you understand what the process really looks like,
some really big choices, big decisions. For my brain, I tend to boil things down to dollars and cents instead of millions of dollars, just because it makes it a little bit easier for me to grasp. So find what works for your brain, because it gets very overwhelming very quickly. This is the budget. So starting on the 30th, Jim starts to collect some very specific information. And then there's due dates for when the teachers have to get their requests to their administrators, for when the administrators have to get their requests to Jim. And then when Jim has to start bringing things to the board to say, all right, this is what we're looking at. And Joel will have to say, and he's got a lot of things that he'll have to say, I've been looking at this part of this building, and we're going to have to spend X amount of money to fix whatever. All that stuff hopefully won't be a surprise unless there's some kind of catastrophic emergency situation. But otherwise, hopefully everything is brought to Jim well in advance and we start to actually discuss it so that you're looking at as close to real dollars as possible when you're deciding, are we going to be able to do everything that all of the teachers and administrators and facilities want to get done, or are we going to have to say, we can't do that, we can't ask the town to give us that much money. That's a really hard one. So, Monica, if you go onto the district website on the school board, please, you'll want to get this part of that as well. And then let Jim know if you have any questions about the time frame or about what things mean on the time frame.
The only other thing I want to add, just kind of forewarn you, I say to the administrators, I want them to give me what they need. And that really is what I say to them, not what we can afford, because you collectively, make that decision. So I asked them to tell me what they need, and be prepared to justify all of it once we can determine what we can afford. And they should be giving their, particularly when it comes to positions, which we had a brief conversation about a month ago, give those to me in priority order. If the grade school can have one thing, what is it going to be? If the middle school can have one thing, what's it going to be, that type of thing. So it'll hopefully be prioritized for you. I just want you to know that, because sometimes people say, well, it's unrealistic to put things in that you know you're not going to get. I don't feel that way. I think you guys should know what it is we think we need. What we need and what we can afford almost never match. But I think it's important that you know that.
Any questions right now? All right. So that is the end of the reports. So moving on to old business, I will entertain a motion to approve the following policies, procedures, or exhibits for second reading. JLCDB naloxone and JS suicide prevention, intervention, and response.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Allison?
Yeah, so I think we've talked about this before, and I feel like we've had the idea that people can email us and we can meet, but I feel like we really have some things that I think would be really helpful to consider as we look at exactly what we want our policy to be. Do you think there's another way we could get that information? What would work best for you to help us hear your voice in this conversation?
Yeah, I know we chatted a little bit during our review session. There is a lot to go over with this, just to make sure that we're covered on all the aspects of working with this stuff. Because Narcan is an adult prescription, and if you have a child overdose, and you need to know kind of like the signs of different types of overdose, other, because if you spend the time not getting someone who's overdosing on something that it won't work on, you're wasting time. That child will likely not make it. So there is a
we're planning to meet on December 6th. And I don't know if that works with the timeline, is that a meeting you are going to come to on December 6th, so we can hear from you at 4:30?
Yeah, 4:30 is kind of hard. I have a hyperactive foster child, so it's like a transition period. I don't know if we can set up something at a later time, or maybe I can come in at the end of that meeting, just because it is like that.
So will that work out with our timeline? You could absolutely, we schedule it now before our board meeting, so that would work well for people who want to come. You guys could just come earlier to the board meeting. But does that work with our timeline of first read, second?
No.
We could table it if we need to. But my question is, while what you have to say is very valid, does that belong in policy, or is that a training-related thing that does not belong in policy, other than an indicator in the policy that there will be extensive training?
Well, there's also laws using this stuff if you go onto the main website. So we're considered like a facility. So it's not like a doctor prescribing it to a parent or a guardian or a friend for that particular person. So there's a lot of legalities that we probably when we write this policy to look at to make sure that we're not contradicting those laws with this use. So we fall under a different category here. To care for the general population.
So is there any way that you can email some of that information to Jim and Alicia and Catherine before the next meeting?
My days are like really, really tough, so to sit and find the time sometimes is not easy. That's why for me to be able to go like sit down with somebody, it's much easier and much quicker.
And pertaining to the laws, as we discussed, so Jim has the numbers, but most schools, all schools, all but us have this policy, so this is a policy, the language, we aren't so much writing the policy, we're ensuring that it's appropriate for our unique community, if there are any sort of just tweaks to it, but the legal approach, I'm so glad you're concerned about that, but I feel really comfortable, I don't know, Alicia and Jim, that's this has been vetted as a legal policy. I just want to see if there's anything to argue there. Does that help answer the question? So I think the position as an institution, or not parents, those things are addressed in the policy. So I would encourage you to check it out, but we very much want to hear what we have to say.
So I guess the question here is, are we going to approve it as a second reading, or are we going to table it?
I would like to approve it as a second read. I'd like to get it on the books. I don't know if that means that we don't get to include perspective. That would be an issue for me. But at the same time, I feel really confident. Jim, I think you should weigh in at this moment. I'm really confident that it's supportive of our community and not something that is illegal in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I don't think, we talked about, I don't think, and I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think your concern is about it's not a legality issue, it's about, there are issues around training and there are things that you brought up, and I went back and looked at this, and I presented this draft, which is a brand new policy for us, got it from main school management, and gave it to the nurses to look over, our nurses, and so they took a look at it. They're obviously concerned, they share their concern about training, storage and safety, those types of things. And I think they feel it's in here. I personally, if the board is comfortable, is not comfortable, sometimes our policy timeline feels very aggressive. I don't personally have any issue if you want to postpone this until December 6th. I don't know that it's going to change, but I would certainly love to have, I get an opportunity, and I know that things are crazy busy for you, but if you could even have a conversation, maybe when you visit Jackie, you can talk to Jen or Jeannie, because they were the two that really were pushing hard to get, because they felt we were behind the eight ball in terms of getting a policy on the book. And we are, as I said, the only place in Kennebec Valley Superintendent's region, which includes women in Kennebec Valley, so the record, that doesn't have this policy in place yet. But I'm not sure that waiting 3 weeks to vote on it for the second reading is going to make a huge difference. So I'm personally comfortable with the policy, but I'm not comfortable with shoving it through if we need some more time. But at least that one.
Generally, I agree with all the legalities. And that's not the concern with the concerns to make sure the policies move for our district. Also, another thing I think we should consider is having that on the bus in a launch facility, because a lot of children, when they transition from home to school, school to home, that's where a lot of stuff changes for them. And sometimes children who come from certain situations, that's their transition period. And they're more likely to use drugs during the ride on the bus. My former bus driver for Lewiston, I used to have to scan my bus very thoroughly between the high school, middle school, and my grade schools because I could find drugs and pills on the bus. So having that, and then we had a situation, I had left the town office, and a Poland bus was stopped down by the pizza shop because a student overdosed. So having that on the buses, I think, is something we should also consider having. And maybe nurses, making sure that drivers are trained and comfortable with being able to walk through that if necessary as well.
The only last thing I've been, again, just from our pretty brief conversation about this, I had not thought about that. I'd like to think it's not as bad here in Winthrop as maybe in a bigger place. Not pointing fingers at Wilson, but you know, the reality is our kids, our grade school kids in particular, they all on the bus after the high school kids. So the possibility, potential is there that if our high school kids accidentally drop something that illegal they're not supposed to have, our grade school kids are curious enough that you never know. So I hadn't really thought about that possibility until we had the conversations, right?
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we should table JLCDB at this point. How are you feeling about JS, the suicide prevention intervention response? Should we table that as well and bring them back together at the same time, or do you feel comfortable waiting for that time? Okay. Tim, would you make a friendly amendment to your motion to table the JLCDB the next meeting?
Yes, I just blanked on the language. Yeah, I moved to table JLC DB.
Okay. Go for that.
Second that.
Okay. All those in favor? 5-0. Up to table JLCDB. And all of those in favor of approving JS suicide prevention, intervention, and response for second reading? 5-0. All right, new business to approve cheerleading as a club for the Winthrop Public Schools effective immediately.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I had some thoughts after reading what Joel wrote. I fully support having cheering here. However, do we have enough kids? And if we don't have enough kids, I don't give the other program. Because go to Monmouth. So then those kids could be out, because you can't just back and forth in the middle of the year, go back and forth.
So my thinking on that is the kids are going to Monmouth because there isn't a program here. And if accepting this program as a club sport, we find that there aren't enough students to support it, then that's what happens. But I don't think that we should not allow it just because there's a possibility that there might not be. So what we're hearing is there is.
Yeah, I think that's the only question I had, is that if it looks like they're successful in Monmouth, would the current high school kids want to come back and have 4 kids on the team? That's my only concern.
Yeah, we do have Valerie on the Zoom right now. Valerie, are you actively listening? Yep, sure. What are you hearing for potential numbers for the high school for cheering?
I believe I will have at least 8 girls, and then we're always open to more, but I do know girls that left middle school that want to do high school cheering, about 8 at least.
And how many of those 8 are currently at Monmouth's program, do you know?
2.
Okay, so that's not going to affect the Monmouth program.
No, well, I wasn't so worried about Monmouth, I was worried about us.
Yeah.
No, we need enough kids in that program. But I think I fully support it, that was my only worry, that we had enough kids, but I think that's a couple of kids. And I think we'll actually have more kids if you don't have to go to Monmouth.
Alicia?
I'm just curious about the Maine Patrol Association policy that restricts, the MPA policy that restricts us from having Monmouth students or from collaborating with another school.
The MPA requires, you can do co-ops, like we do obviously for the hockey, for all co-ops. But there's a process you have to go through. You can't just say, well, we don't have enough kids, so we'll bring Monmouth in. It's a classification issue, and if you stop doing it, there's some penalties that you can't. It doesn't matter, I mean, cheering has some amazing competitions, and if we decided to break, if we did a co-op, and we decided to break that co-op, we would not be allowed to compete for, I think, 2 years. 2 years, yeah. So those are implications. The NBA does regulate. I'm with Tim. I support approving this. I think we may start with some small numbers, but I think it's programs have been pretty. I see those kids, those younger kiddos in here practicing, so I think we got quite a number of people in our pipeline.
Any other discussion before we take a vote? All those in favor? 5-0. Have fun cheering. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next is a discussion regarding adding history of exploration as a new social studies elective at the high school. So the form and the information is at the back of your packet. It's the last page, double-sided, and Jay is here to talk about it today.
Hello again. So this elective was proposed by our new social studies teacher, Mr. Fansdale. Like a lot of new teachers, have some new ideas. I'm always very open to those ideas and to diversify our course offerings. And in fact, to look at putting some of our course offerings and electives on a rotation. If courses sort of get stale and numbers go down, then we put them on a 2-year rotation where they kind of come out and come back. And social studies is one that has done that. And this would be a new course, which is not one I've seen, and I taught social studies in a formal life, that I would appreciate teaching and taking, actually, a semester-based course that really kind of looks at exploration and exploration of frontiers through the eyes of the explorers, and including things like from the beginning of man to exploring different lands to the explorers going to the moon and to outer space, which I thought was when I sat with Mr. P and talked with him, I thought it was a really cool course. He's really excited about it, and I think it's something that our kids would really enjoy taking.
Thank you, Jay.
And I also add, it's funny you said that, because when I first read this, I was just chatting in the office with Colleen, as a former social studies teacher myself, I was like, I would love to teach this course.
So as a quick reminder for board members, we don't need to vote on this. We just need to be made aware that it's happening so that if there are any concerns, we can voice them. There was a period of time where we were not being made aware when new courses were being added to the schools, and then people were saying to board members, hey, tell me more about this, and we have no idea. So this is informational and for feedback if you have any questions or concerns.
I was going to be appreciative, just as you mentioned with cheering, that I think the idea of the staggering and being aware of the numbers issue that you would have, I think that was a very sensitive way to handle it. I also want to understand, this is an elective course, so does it meet a requirement for a graduation requirement? So is it a half credit for a graduation requirement?
It would be aligned to social studies standards. It would be considered a social studies elective.
And do those count toward their?
Yes.
Okay. And is it right now replacing anything, or right now it's an additional class that students would be able to sign up for?
This would be an additional class that we would put on the selection of studies for next year. Students would sign up in the spring. March, April-ish. Just the teachers will let me know which ones they would like to put on the selection of studies. That way we give students some voice and some choice. And based on numbers, some courses run, some don't. And sometimes we have courses we have to offer multiple sections, which is always a good thing.
And one final question, is this targeted for a certain grade level, or is it a 9 through 12 course offering?
My understanding is this would be open 9 through 12.
I actually just wanted to clarify what Kelly was saying, that tonight we're discussing this, you will vote on it. There was a time when you did not, and courses were added without me knowing, without you guys knowing, and policy does call for an opportunity to hear about the course, ask questions, and then you'll be on the next agenda for approval.
Thank you for that clarification. Thanks, Jim. All right. Moving on to 7, are there any additions to future agendas that the board members would like to see? Joseph, is there anything you'd like us to add? That's awesome. Okay. All right, yes.
I believe this to the will of the board, but I'm not at all opposed to having a discussion about the board's feelings, and I would want to go public about the letter. I will say that I am not apologetic for writing it. And then one thing that I'm responsible for is looking out for what I believe is in the best interest of the school system. And I would be happy to have that conversation publicly if people want to do that.
What's the will of the board?
Yeah, I guess it probably is appropriate to have that conversation.
All right, thank you. All right, on to comments. Catherine?
I really want to take a moment to speak about how I think the Winthrop community handled the situation we just went through. And I have been proud, but more than that, really comfortable and confident with what the work that people have been doing each individually, coming from a place of caring, coming from a place of understanding. And I was really moved and really comforted by the strength of our sense of community and working together, and it's really, it's something really special. So.
We are lucky that in a horrific time, we do band together beautifully, whether people work here or live here or both.
Tim?
Nothing.
Alicia?
Nothing.
Hi. It was an awesome play this weekend.
There was an awesome play this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, kids worked really hard, and I got a sneak peek at it, pretty amazing.
3 o'clock is.
Is this that play I Can Bring My 7th Grader to?
Yes.
All right, Joseph?
Since David isn't here,
Yeah.
just want to take the time to say how excited I am, and I know David is too, for winter sports to be starting on the 20th, and how I think it'll be enjoyable and fruitful for everybody involved.
Do you play any sports?
I do learn skiing.
Awesome. I don't have anything else to add, so without objection, I will declare the meeting adjourned at 7:28.